Kathleen Kennedy and her creative decisions has pushed away another writer, as Stephen Knight is out as the writer of the upcoming Ray movie. And honestly, no surprise to anyone who's been paying attention to, what's been happening over at Lucasfilm with Kathleen Kennedy at the helm at this. And this film, which is supposed to star Daisy Ridley as Ray again and directed by Charmaine Obaid-Chinoy, is now officially going through the same cycle of exits and delays that we've seen under Kathleen Kennedy's manager. In fact, it's starting to feel like a bit more like Blade project over in the Marvel Universe. Always promised yet always delayed, and constantly shuffling writers and directors like it's going out of style. And in my humble opinion, there's one name that's been keep coming up every time we've talked about this: Kathleen Kennedy. I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. So welcome back to Views with Hughes, agenda-free news. This is Jerome Hughes. Now let's go ahead and get right into it. All right, now Knight's no, slouch. He's the creator of Peaky Blinders, and he's got a long, solid track record in film and television. Now, if anyone could bring a gritty, engaging story to Star Wars, you'd think it'd be him. But he's out. And just like the writers before him, and all signs point to disagreements with Kathleen Kennedy and her direction over at Lucasfilm. Now remember, Knight's been working on this script for over a year. He's written 4 drafts each time, trying to incorporate notes from Lucasfilm, or more specifically from Kathleen Kennedy herself. Now, this is no surprise right here, but yeah, definitely it's true. Kathleen Kennedy reportedly kept sending him back with notes to improve the story. Now, we're not talking about minor tweaks here. It sounds like Kathleen Kennedy was essentially trying to steer the story into a particular direction of woke ideology, one that Knight either didn't agree with or found difficult to incorporate without compromising the integrity of his work. And there's no new pattern under Kathleen Kennedy. Now, we've seen time and time again that talented creators, people like, I guess you could say Damien Lindelof was created, and Justin Britt Gibson were hired to write for Star Wars, only to leave soon after because of creative differences with Kathleen Kennedy and her team at Lucasfilm. So what exactly is going on here? I think this could be a serious case of Kathleen Kennedy trying to impose her own vision on the franchise once again, even if that vision is not connected with the writers, and frankly, it hasn't really connected with the fans either. It's like they're putting a chokehold on creativity at Lucasfilm, and Kathleen Kennedy seems to be the driving force behind that. And when you look at the timing, Knight is about to shoot his Peaky Blinders movie. Well, if it makes sense, he cut ties with the project that keeps forcing him into endless rewrites under Kathleen Kennedy's constant demands. And to all of us, this should come as no surprise. But another big question on my mind is, and I'm sure on yours too, is why is Disney, with Kathleen Kennedy's direction, even think we need another Ray movie? I mean, look, I know there's fans out there of Ray and Daisy Ridley, and she's a solid actress, but let's be honest, the Rise of Skywalker didn't exactly, leave a ton of people clamoring more stories in that particular storyline. Now, Ray's arc is wrapped up, albeit in a way that left many of us with more questions than answers. So why bring it back? It feels like Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm are still stuck in this safe mode, relying on established characters instead of just creating new ones and exploring new ideas, along with the fact that in the Star Wars universe they help to make it better. But here's where Kathleen Kennedy's modeling really shows, okay? It's like she thinks we're slapping the Star Wars label on the project and making it about Ray is enough to get the butts back in the seats, but the fans are smarter than that. And I think the diminishing returns are starting to show. Instead of just a fresh new story, we're getting these half-baked ideas forced on the others, into talented writers, who then leave taking their potential good ideas with them all, thanks to Kathleen Kennedy, because of Kathleen Kennedy's control over the creative decisions, all right? And this should come as no surprise to any of us. But now we get to the heart of the problem here, Kathleen Kennedy herself. Let's say that, under Kathleen Kennedy and her leadership, Star Wars hasn't exactly been smooth sailing. And it's no secret that her creative direction has clashed with writers and directors time and time again. You see, Kathleen Kennedy was a huge part of the success in the earlier days of Star Wars. I can't believe I just said that. I'm wrong. But she did work close with George Lucas, but now Kathleen Kennedy is steering the ship solo, and it seems like every big decision that she makes is with controversy that ends up driving away talented creators. Now, if you look back at the last few years, how many directors and writers and entire projects have been getting sidelined, delayed, and completely scrapped under Kathleen Kennedy and her leadership. Almost every high-profile Star Wars film project has been plagued with setbacks, and the ones that actually make it to release aren't exactly being hailed as fan favorites. Now, yes, the first two seasons of Mandalorian did well, but Jon Favreau had a big hand in that. And he's been working able to work largely on his own terms without Kathleen Kennedy's interference. But with Knight, I mean, it's clear that there was a lot of back and forth over the story, and ultimately, it was enough to actually drive him away from a project controlled by Kathleen Kennedy. And I think what we're seeing here is a lack of trust in the people Kathleen Kennedy hires. Now, Stephen Knight, Damon Lindelof, Justin Britt Gibson, they all had, somewhat solid credentials, yet they've all left because, they couldn't align with Kathleen Kennedy's vision. So who's going to want to take on this project now, knowing full well that they're going to be micromanaged and creatively stifled by Kathleen Kennedy? I mean, might as well just go ahead and cancel the whole project altogether. And let's talk about the project itself, which is ultimately Kathleen Kennedy's brainchild. Now, this Rey movie is supposed to focus on Rey trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, training a new generation of Jedi. Now, on paper, that sounds like a good idea, but again, do we really need the story, especially from Kathleen Kennedy? I mean, rebuilding on this has been done before, both Expanded Universe, which Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm scrapped, and in various Star Wars media. Plus, this is territory Luke Skywalker should have had his time with if you follow the natural flow of things, okay? But, of course, Kathleen Kennedy won't listen because there's so many potential stories in Star Wars Galaxy, new characters, new planets, new threats that could be explored without constantly retreating the same territory, as Kathleen Kennedy keeps doing. And I think a lot about, the fans who are frustrated by the fact that Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm seem to be holding on to the sequel trilogy and on the sequel trilogy characters, maybe hoping that nostalgia will carry these films, even though the storyline wrapped up in 2019. Now, we could have entirely had new adventures with brand new characters, but instead they're trying to tie everything back to Rey because Kathleen Kennedy thinks it's a safe choice. And maybe Kathleen Kennedy and Disney are even second guessing the project now. Rumor has it that Disney's uncertain about whether to greenlight this film at all. And if that's true, I have to ask one question. What does that say about Kathleen Kennedy's decision making? Now, if there's this much doubt surrounding a project that Kathleen Kennedy's been pushing forward and they've lost yet another writer, then maybe it's time to step back and reconsider whether this is even the right decision for Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy. All right, but the fact of the matter is there's, another interesting aspect to this that Kathleen Kennedy is likely involved in. There's the director, Charmaine Obaid-Chinoy. Now, this two-time Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker was brought on to direct this film, and that's a bold choice right there. And on the surface, it sounds great to bring new voices into Star Wars, but again, from what's been whispered, even her involvement seems up in the air right now. Now, if she's also feeling the pinch of Kathleen Kennedy's creative control and potentially thinking about leaving, then something is not right. I mean, Obaid-Chinoy's background in these documentaries not exactly big budget sci-fi and everything, but if she's being pulled into too many directions, it feels like creatively limited by Kathleen Kennedy's oversight. I mean, we could see her exit too. Now, honestly, that would be another nail in the coffin for this project and more fuel for fans who already believe that Kathleen Kennedy and Lucasfilm can't stick to a coherent plan. But what we're seeing here is more than just, a case of bad luck with writers and stuff and directors under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership, but it's also indicative of a much deeper problem within the Lucasfilm brand, one that stems from a leadership style that Kathleen Kennedy is enforcing, one that doesn't let creators create, and Kathleen Kennedy has consistently hired talented people and then pushed them out by trying to micromanage their work to fit a specific vision that's not resonating with audiences. But as you all know, for Star Wars to move forward, I think Lucasfilm needs a massive change in leadership and the fresh approach to one without Kathleen Kennedy. Now, they need someone willing to trust the creative talents that they hire, someone who understands that Star Wars fans want stories that feel fresh, yet stay true to the heart of the universe and they fell in love with. And we don't need more, retreats or of the same ideas or copies of the same ideas. We need something new, and we need leaders at Lucasfilm that understand and respect that. And that means moving away from Kathleen Kennedy's formula. Now, as of now, Lucasfilm is searching for yet another writer for the Rey project. The release date, initially set for December 2026, seems all but impossible to meet now under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership. But you know what? If they want to avoid yet another PR disaster and finally give fans something to get excited about, they'll need to rethink their approach, not just to this project, but to the entire way that they're running Star Wars under Kathleen Kennedy. But you know what? At the end of the day, we just want a great Star Wars movie. Or some of us actually believe that Star Wars is already dead, and we know that talented writers and directors are out there who can make that happen. But can they do that if they're constantly being second guessed and forced to meet some top-down vision that doesn't resonate with fans, a vision that Kathleen Kennedy has been forcing? And it's time for a new era in Star Wars leadership, one that actually gets the creative voices to shine, one that lets Star Wars breathe without Kathleen Kennedy's restrictions. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Also, be sure to include any additional thoughts you might have this particular topic. If you enjoyed what I said in this video, go ahead, smash the like button and share this video for all of our across social media. And if you haven't done so already, you enjoyed all the content that I put out there, go ahead, subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications so that way you'll be notified of future uploads and updates. Till then, peace.